Hello everyone. So for me, one of the main things that I thought about in first approaching this question about populism, friend or foe, is to kind of come at what is populism and what underpins it. And obviously the obvious place to start is what is popular, because of course populism doesn't work without it being pinned on, something that people at least think that the public want and will support. And one of the sort of issues with this is who decides what is popular. So something that is going to make me sound like a really, typical Blairite's idea of a Corbynista is, polling, for example, is not something that I necessarily think can be trusted. I mean, I was in America a couple of days before the US election, and I went to the San Francisco for Hillary phone bank. And in it, we were obviously ringing swing states like Pennsylvania, Florida, places like this, and we were being told that, the response is great, everyone's really loving Hillary's message, and all the responses that I was actually getting on the phone or our text system, which gave you a pseudonym, and mine was Hermione, was basically, fuck you Hermione, fuck Hillary, race war now, Donald Trump, and all this. And I remember saying to the guy who was leading this, I said, 80 to 90% of the responses that I'm getting are, quite, not just, no thanks, I'm not really into Hillary, it's, really quite aggressive. And he said, oh no, don't worry, the only people that respond on these sorts of things are generally, the people that are quite adamantly against it. It's not reflective of the general mood of these places, just keep going, and the people that are, getting these messages, they'll go out, they'll vote Hillary, it's fine, don't worry. So obviously that night, 2 days into my time in America, I turn up to the San Francisco for Hillary victory party that they had planned and that all the polls said was going to happen, and just watched as everyone became sort of increasingly suicidal in the room and left at about 9 p.m. while, most of the Americans were in tears, and I was just like, I'm out of here now. I think a lot of us can relate to that sort of feeling with the EU referendum. I mean, I generally stay up to watch all the election coverage of every election, but, it was a long day. I went to bed at about 9:30. I saw the exit polls, was like, decent. Saw Nigel Farage saying that it was all lost and accepting defeat, and then woke up the next morning to see that Brexit was a thing that had happened. And I think that, a lot of the way that questions are posed to people and the way they're framed and who they're being asked by, and, even the questions themselves, I mean, when it comes to things that are sort of controversial, like things like the death penalty, for example, if someone asks you, do you support the death penalty for sex offenders, for example, a lot of people will feel like they can't say, no, actually I'm anti the death penalty, because they think it makes them pro-sex offender to answer in that way, which obviously is a silly example. But, the Labour Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament did an interesting piece of research about 2 years ago, and it was around people's views towards Trident renewal. And the way that the question was framed, so made something like a 35% difference in people's support or otherwise for renewal. And so the idea was that actually, the public aren't necessarily super in favour of Trident, but the question and the way that it's always been put to them is around, security. It's not around things like the cost. It's not around things like, do you think that the UK should, commit an act of genocide on another nation? It's all very subjective. And I think that because of the shortcomings with polling and with sort of focus group data, is that a lot of the way that we determine what is popular is the media. And I mean, a good example of this is if you look at the way that the media approached Ed Miliband's proposed energy price cap about 2 years ago versus the way they've approached Theresa May's almost identical policy this year. Ed Miliband was a Marxist madman, and Theresa May is, she's strong and stable and like, you know, what a great idea it is. And I think, you know, as much as a free press is a vital part of a functioning democracy, there is so little quality reporting these days because of the pressures on the media from things like advertising revenue, where it's much more about getting a clickbaity headline or getting your sassy hot take in than it is necessarily about coming up with sort of quality reportage that's impartial, that covers the issues in a way that allows people to make their own decisions about events. But beyond an idea about what is popular and who determines that, is the way that the idea is presented to people and who it's presented by is just as important as what the idea is. They did a very interesting thing on Newsnight the other night where they were showing people Labour's manifesto pledges in the street but not telling them which party it was from. And everyone was like, oh yeah, big time, like, this is, oh, I love this policy. And then they flipped over the next board and it had Corbyn's face on it. And they said, well, this is actually Corbyn's policy, would you vote for it? And the amount of people who were loving it on question 1 were adamant that they wouldn't vote for it on question 2, and that they were going to vote for Theresa May instead, despite them doing a similar thing where they showed them Conservative Party policies and they all said they hated them, and then showed them Theresa May's face and said they were hers, and they said that they would vote for it. So, I mean, I think it's something that we're all subjected to, this sort of confirmation bias from our friends, our social media feeds, our news sources, where actually very few people have got an idea, or a particularly good idea, about what is actually popular, which is one of the main issues with populism in my view. And I think, you know, we can hardly have a conversation about populism without Tony Benn's famous analogy, where he categorised politicians as either weather vanes or signposts. And a signpost is someone who indicates the way ahead, they're resolute and unchanging in the face of criticism or challenge. And a weather vane is, you know, swings with the wind essentially, tries to be all things to all people and inevitably doesn't really end up pleasing anyone. And I think, you know, to be a signpost obviously sounds preferable, but there is this idea that how do you win people over to your argument without at least being able to understand their position and meet them, you know, perhaps some of the way to yours. But our issue for the Labour Party, at least, I think, in recent years, has that we've become so less representative of the communities that we represent, and it's become a much more managerial and technocratic party where, you know, a lot of its MPs are drawn from, you know, the world of business and the world of sort of white-collar professional roles, and less of them from, you know, labouring roles, shop workers, people like that. That we're sort of trying to chase this median voter, but when no one really knows what the median voter thinks or wants. And it's sort of manifesto where, you know, we had it all engraved in stone and then said that it wasn't cast in stone policies. And we had this immigration policy where we had these mugs that said, you know, strong on immigration. But when you actually read the policy itself, it was kind of, immigration is great and good for our economy, but also we need less of it. And you're sort of following this line of argument through, like, what? And I thought, you know, I've got a politics degree, I, you know, work in a political organisation, I've been a Labour Party member for 10 years, and I'm reading this, and if someone said to me, you know, let's do, you know, 30-second thing, Labour's policy on immigration, I'd have just been like, it was unintelligible. And I think the best example of, you know, the Labour Party's chasing this kind of, you know, populist idea, but without a real understanding of what people want underpinning it, is an analogy that some of you might have ever heard me speak before, but it's Ed Miliband's Hamster Cafe. And essentially it was, here in Manchester, they opened a cat cafe a couple of years ago, and in a big group of friends of mine at the pub, we were all having this conversation about, like, oh my God, it's so great, they've got a cat cafe. You know, all these people that live in rented accommodation and aren't allowed cats. And then, you know, sort of half the group is then saying, well, you know, dogs are a lot better than cats, and it should be a puppy cafe. And so there's, you know, there's this quite almost angry debate happening between a cat cafe and a puppy cafe, until someone said, do you not think that Ed Miliband would rock up right now and offer us a hamster cafe? And it was one of those things when actually, because we've not been bold or brave enough to say, you know, maybe about half of people want this and maybe about half of people want this, and we've not been bold enough to say, you know, let's be signposts. Let's say, do you know what, we can't win everyone. Let's capture sort of this part of the electorate. Instead, we said, let's try and get everyone with all these policies that say nothing to anyone about their lives and see what happens. And I mean, obviously, we know what happened. And I think that's the main issue with populism, that politics itself, and I'm hoping that the, you know, two-time election of Jeremy Corbyn is changing things, in that, you know, Labour's becoming a much more like a mass membership party. We've got, I think it's the biggest party membership in Europe at the moment. I'm the vice chair of Young Labour, which has gone from about 15,000 members to about 80,000 members in a little over a year, which is obviously very exciting. And it's these things that I think, you know, coming away from this sort of decline in political membership over the last 20 years across Europe, that the fact that we're now seeing more people engaging in the political process perhaps means that we can do left populism that isn't just rooted in sort of nativism and xenophobia, but it needs people to actually engage in those processes to do it. And it's kind of, you know, I think populism on paper is great, and obviously, you know, we want things that are popular, but in practice, at the moment, I don't think we're in a place to deliver it. So I sort of say, you know, like on Tinder, when you see someone and they look alright, but you've not met them yet. Maybe that's what populism is. That's sort of, you know, one day, but maybe not right now. So yeah, I'll leave you on that. Thank you very much.